I wanted to remind our viewers about a very significant piece of breaking news that we're getting to you. The mega rail ports connectivity deal that's on the cards right now. India, the US, Saudi and UAE will be unveiling an ambitious deal very, very shortly. It's an ambitious deal to link the Gulf with India. We've got details of it that we're breaking to our viewers now. All of it happening at the G20, a mega network of rail and ports to link the Gulf with India. As Gaurav was just telling us, there are many civilizational links, not just with Africa, but also with the Gulf. And this could, in some way, rival China's Belt and Road initiative that it has been using to mixed effect in different parts of the world. I want to bring in Faisal Abbas, editor-in-chief of Arab News, to get an expert view from him on this announcement that has just been made. Faisal, welcome. Thank you very much for your time. A piece of news that we're just breaking now, very important. A big rail and ports connectivity program that's on the cards between India, the United States, Saudi Arabia and the UAE. What do you think about that? Apparently it's about to be announced at the G20.
Well, first of all, thank you very much. It's an honor to be on your show, and indeed it's an honor to be in your country. Thank you very much for the warm hospitality. As you pointed out, this project is yet to be announced, so the full details and indeed a final confirmation is yet to be revealed. What we are hearing is we're expecting it at a later stage before the end of the summit, but at least from where we're looking at it in Saudi Arabia and the Gulf, this does not come as a surprise. As you rightly pointed out in the introduction, there are historic civilizational ties, cultural ties, business ties between India and the Gulf, between India and Saudi Arabia, between indeed India and the Arab world. This project, if it happens, will serve the bilateral benefits and economic interests of India and Saudi Arabia and the wider Gulf region. Let us not forget there's about 8 million Indian expats in the Gulf region, and this thriving economy, and India imports about 1/3 of its oil needs from the Gulf, and all the forecasts and expectations is for the bilateral ties with Saudi Arabia and India to grow even stronger and deeper.
The leader of Saudi Arabia, Faisal, His Excellency Mohammed bin Salman, is in India, not just for the G20, but also for a state visit. The India-Saudi relationship has been a very interesting one. And in the last few years, seem to have been, very dramatically transformed. As a journalist from Saudi Arabia, how do you see that? We just saw the very warm body language between the two leaders just a moment ago. Those are the pictures playing on our screen as well between the leader of Saudi Arabia and the leader of India. How do you see how this relationship has changed? Because it clearly is in such large projects and cooperation.
Well, I agree with you perfectly that the relationship has changed to the better. It has improved dramatically. And I was here with His Royal Highness the Crown Prince in his last visit in February 2019. And I indeed saw the warm body language. And that was paired with huge, and I think this plays a vital role in the bilateral relationship. Both countries have huge ambitions. Just as one example, both countries have had successful space missions only this year. Among them, they are the two fastest growing economies in the G20. The historical ties, the civilizational ties, the business ties between India and Saudi Arabia goes back centuries. So this comes to no surprise, but I think, if I may, the most important aspect here is mutual respect. This is what happens when countries talk to each other as peers, as opposed to lackeys, as opposed to intimidation, as opposed to colonial powers.
Absolutely.
What happens between Saudi Arabia and what's happening between Saudi Arabia and India is that they are working together as peers, and as we've seen from the theme of the G20, we can see a full alignment in the embetterment of the world, in the embetterment of the environment, and sustainability and prosperity for all.
One final question, Faisal. On the big announcement that kicked off today's G20 summit by the Indian Prime Minister, the admission of the African Union, 55-member African Union into the G20. This was expected, but it's obviously become the big initial headline ahead of that summit. How do you see that? It's something that is going to become a major talking point because of India's relationship with China, what China has been trying to do in Africa as well. A big move here.
No, I agree with you. It's a big move, and I think we've seen firsthand what happens when you ignore your neighbors. I think the world has had enough of ignoring African voices. It cannot be ignored. Certainly the position of Saudi Arabia, and this is going to be demonstrated by an upcoming Saudi-African summit in just a few weeks actually happening in Riyadh. We can no longer, we shouldn't have, and we can no longer ignore Africa. So at least from the way I look at it, this is a very welcome and logical move, and there's a lot of potential in Africa. And if there's one thing we learned from the pandemic is you can leave no one behind.
Leave no one behind. Appreciate your voice on this. It's really great to have you here on India today, and good to have you here in India as well. I hope you get some time away from the summit to enjoy yourself, Faisal. Nice to have you. Thank you so much for your time.